It's a Tuesday morning. Her name is Claire. She's 42. She runs a regional marketing team, manages a household with 2 kids under 12, and has been trying, genuinely trying, to schedule a date night with her husband for 3 weeks straight. The text from her mother is 11 words long. "I just didn't want to bother you. I know you're busy." That's it. That's the whole message. No context, no ask, no emergency. And yet, her stomach drops like she just missed a step in the dark. There is something that happens in the body before the mind catches up.
A tightening in the throat, a heat behind the sternum, an old animal alertness, the kind that doesn't know the difference between a predator and a passive-aggressive text from a 68-year-old woman in Scottsdale. She reads it again and again. She starts composing a reply, deletes it, composes another. Her 9 a.m. call starts in 4 minutes. By dinner, she hasn't fully returned to her own life. She's somewhere between her kitchen and her mother's living room, a place she never officially left, no matter how many states separate them. David asks if she's okay. She says yes. He knows she isn't. She knows he knows. By 10 o'clock, they are fighting. Not about the text. They never fight about the text. They fight about how she shuts down, about how he doesn't understand what it's like, about how she's always choosing her mother over their family, which isn't fair because she hasn't even called her mother back yet. And here is what no one in that argument can name out loud. The text wasn't a message. It was a hook. And the hook is still in her. It has been in her since she was 9 years old.
What Claire is living inside has a name. Not a diagnosis, a dynamic. A specific, patterned, almost architecturally precise system of emotional control that narcissistic mothers have been running on their daughters for generations. And the most insidious thing about it is this. It doesn't look like abuse. It doesn't even look like a problem. From the outside, it looks like a close mother-daughter relationship. From the inside, it feels like suffocation you've been taught to call love. We are going to take this thing apart today. Not to give you a checklist, not to diagnose your mother, but because understanding the exact mechanism of a trap is the first real step toward not being destroyed by it. Let's talk about the machinery.
Here is what most people get wrong about narcissistic parents and their adult children. They assume the control was always about dominance, about keeping the child small, compliant, dependent. And in childhood, that's partially true. But something shifts when the daughter grows up and becomes, by every external measure, successful. When she has a career, a home, a husband, children of her own. When she, in fact, becomes the capable, high-functioning adult her mother always demanded she become. You would think a narcissistic mother would be proud. She is not proud. She is calculating. Here is how the narcissistic mother's internal architecture actually works. Your success was never the goal. Your success is the asset. She spent 20 years, or at least she believes she did, investing in you. The sacrifices, the driving to ballet, the college tuition, or the guilt about the college tuition she couldn't afford. The emotional labor she cataloged and stored like receipts in a shoebox. And now that you are a 42-year-old woman with a salary and a house and a functioning life, she does not see a daughter who has thrived. She sees a portfolio that has matured. She sees an asset she is now entitled to liquidate. Your time, your emotional bandwidth, your money, your attention on a Tuesday morning when you have 17 emails and a 9 o'clock call. All of it is, in her accounting system, owed, prepaid, already spent on you, and now due to be returned. That text, "I just didn't want to bother you. I know you're busy," isn't a gracious acknowledgement of your schedule. It is a withdrawal slip. It is designed to produce exactly what it produced: the drop in the stomach, the guilt, the compulsive need to call her back and prove that you are not, in fact, too busy for her, that she is and will always be your first priority.
Because in her ledger, being your first priority is not a request. It's a line item in the original contract, the one you never signed, but that she considers legally binding. The parental retainership illusion is this: the belief that raising a child creates a permanent, irrevocable, transferable debt, and that the child's success is simply proof that the debt is now collectible.
Now, here is where it gets complicated, because the woman who raised you, the one who may have been controlling, critical, emotionally demanding, possibly terrifying, has gotten older. And something happens to narcissistic mothers as they age that their daughters are almost entirely unprepared for. The aggression goes quiet. The criticism softens, or disappears entirely. The woman who once made you feel 3 inches tall with a single look now seems fragile, sad, lonely, smaller than you remembered. And if you spent your childhood learning to manage her moods, to read every micro-expression, to adjust yourself in real time to keep the peace, this shift will feel, at first, like relief. It is not relief. It is a rebrand.
What was once delivered as direct control, the criticism, the demands, the anger, has been repackaged into something far more effective: fragility. After everything I sacrificed for you, said not with rage, but with a tired, quiet resignation that makes your chest cave in. I guess I'm just a burden now. No, go. Enjoy your vacation. I'll be fine here. I don't want to make things harder for you. These sentences are not expressions of acceptance. They are precision instruments. They are designed to trigger the exact same response as a direct demand would, but with the added benefit that if you refuse or fail to respond appropriately, you are now also the villain. You are the cold, selfish daughter who abandoned her aging mother, who chose her career over her family, who forgot where she came from. With overt control, you can push back, you can argue, you can say, that's not fair. With weaponized vulnerability, any pushback you attempt makes you look and feel like a monster.
This is the genius of the aging shift. The narcissistic mother hasn't become less controlling. She has become more controlling, with significantly less effort and far greater deniability. And because her daughter spent her whole childhood being responsible for her mother's emotional state, because that was quite literally her first and most important job, the guilt that floods in response to these messages isn't a weakness, it's a reflex. It was trained into her body before she had language for it. The text isn't just a text, it's a cue, and the body answers before the mind can intervene.
There is a concept in psychology called enmeshment. It describes a family system where the boundaries between individuals, where one person ends and another begins, are blurred or non-existent. In an enmeshed mother-daughter relationship, the daughter's separate identity, her preferences, her relationships, her loyalty to her own family, isn't experienced by the mother as something healthy and natural. It's experienced as a threat. Here is what a narcissistic mother cannot fully internalize on a deep operational level about her adult daughter's life. That her daughter's husband is not her competition. That her daughter's children are not assets being withheld. That her daughter setting a boundary is not the same thing as her daughter choosing someone else over her. In the narcissistic mother's zero-sum frame, love is not expandable. There is a fixed, finite supply, and every ounce of it her daughter directs toward her husband, her kids, her career, her own mental health, is an ounce stolen directly from her. When Claire prioritizes a date night with David, her mother does not experience this as Claire living her life. She experiences it as Claire choosing David over her. When Claire doesn't call back immediately, when she lets the text sit for 4 hours because she was in back-to-back meetings, her mother does not experience this as a busy Tuesday.
She experiences it as abandonment, and she will say so. Perhaps not directly, perhaps in the form of a sigh, A carefully timed mention of how long it's been since they've talked. A loaded question about whether Claire is doing okay, delivered in a tone that suggests she already knows the answer, and the answer is that Claire is failing her. This is the enmeshment trap in its full operational form. The daughter is simultaneously required to be fully available to her mother, emotionally present, geographically accessible, financially generous, conversationally unlimited, while also being a fully functioning adult who manages a career, a marriage, children, a home, and her own body, which is probably running on 4 hours of sleep and the kind of ambient anxiety that she's normalized so completely she's stopped noticing it. She is expected to be two people at once, and the one who suffers most from that impossibility is not her mother. It is her marriage. It is her children who are getting the remainder of her, the part that's left after the emotional tax has been collected. It is her, the version of her that wanted to be something other than someone's perfect, endlessly available daughter.
Let's talk about what this costs. Not abstractly, not theoretically. What it actually costs, in real, measurable terms, to live inside this dynamic as an adult woman. The marriage. This is the thing that doesn't get named often enough, so let's name it clearly. A narcissistic parent will gladly, not intentionally, not consciously in most cases, but gladly watch their daughter's marriage erode in order to regain total, unshared custody of her. Not because they hate her husband, not always, but because a struggling marriage is a daughter who needs her mother. And a daughter who needs her mother is a daughter who calls more, visits more, whose attention is no longer divided. This is not a conspiracy, it's a gravity. The narcissistic mother doesn't plot the collapse of her daughter's marriage. She simply responds to every crack in it with warmth, availability, and a kind of intimacy that, if the daughter is honest, she can't quite get anywhere else right now.
Because no one knows her like her mother does. No one has the same shared history, the same shorthand, the same ability to make her feel seen and known, and that's enmeshment talking. That closeness isn't closeness. It's capture. The children. What the children receive from a mother in this dynamic is not her worst. She would never allow herself to believe she's failing them. But they receive her distracted presence. They receive her anxiety, which she cannot entirely conceal. They receive a mother who is emotionally intelligent, but emotionally stretched, who has learned from her own childhood that other people's feelings come first. And sometimes, if she doesn't interrupt the cycle, they receive a template, a belief absorbed quietly over years, that love means sacrifice without limit, that being needed is the price of being loved.
Here is where most conversations about this dynamic end, with some version of set boundaries, seek therapy, learn to say no. And I'm not going to tell you those things are wrong, but I am going to tell you something that is, I think, more useful, something colder. And because of that coldness, something actually liberating. You cannot pay off a debt that was designed to keep you bankrupt. Read that again. The debt your mother holds against you, the accumulated obligation of her sacrifice, her suffering, her love, her loneliness, her age, her fragility, was never a debt with a payoff number. There is no amount of calls, visits, money sent, guilt absorbed, plans canceled, vacations cut short, date nights abandoned, arguments deferred. There is no amount of any of it that will bring the balance to zero. Because the moment it approaches zero, the terms change. New receipts are written. New withdrawals are made. New fragilities are discovered. New debts are issued in your name.
This is not a flaw in the system. This is the system. The debt is not meant to be paid. It is meant to be serviced, endlessly, at the cost of everything else. And the only exit, the only real one, is not to find a better payment plan. It's to stop recognizing the debt as legitimate. That is not as simple as it sounds, because the debt collector is your mother, and the debt was written in the language of love, imperfect, complicated, real in its own way, love. You are not wrong to feel it. You are not weak for carrying it. But at some point, the most important question is not, how do I be a better daughter? The question is, how do I be a whole person? How do I live a life where my worth is not a function of her satisfaction? Where my marriage is not a casualty of her loneliness?
Where my children learn from watching me that love is reciprocal, that it flows in both directions, or it is something else wearing love's name. Accepting that you will never be able to earn your way to freedom inside this dynamic is not giving up on your mother. It is not cruelty. It is not abandonment. It is the beginning of honesty. You can love your mother and simultaneously recognize that the architecture of your relationship with her has been built to serve her needs at the expense of your own. Both things are true. They do not cancel each other out. The work is not about becoming someone who doesn't feel the pull. You may always feel the pull. The body remembers its training. The work is about feeling the pull and choosing again and again to remain in your own life. To keep showing up for the marriage that is right in front of you. To stay for dinner instead of disappearing into the phone. To remember that the people who live in your house are not competing with your mother for your love. They are simply, quietly asking you to be here. And that, choosing to be here, is not a betrayal of where you came from. It is the only way to stop being owned by it.